That's a loud one. Good morning. Welcome both in the sanctuary and online to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. We are currently on the unceded ancestral lands of the Tokabega and Seminole Native Americans. My name is John Motter. I'm a member of this church and also on the worship committee. The worship committee works closely with Reverend Ben as part of our shared ministry, and on the days that he's not in the pulpit, we fill in for him and provide the service. He is expected to be back next week. I'm happy to be joined today by Aaron Cassette, John Arterton, James Mack, and the UU St. Pete Choir for our music. And we are very fortunate to have the wonderful Sandi Weeks as the worship associate today.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. If you want a church where Black Lives Matter, where books are not banned, where women are regarded as fully human, and where we strive to treat all people fairly and kindly, where each person is free to search for what is true and right in life, I have good news for you. You may have found your church home.
Thanks, Sandi. Today is a continuation of our month's theme of the gift of generosity. Some of you might have spent Friday being generous with your money while shopping the holiday sales. Americans are expected to spend roughly $960 billion this Christmas season. Surely that's a sign of our generosity. Right. Many, however, will increase their debt to make their Christmas a success. But is all that shopping really us being generous? Maybe, I suppose. But what we're going to focus on this morning is generosity of the Spirit, and generosity as a spiritual practice, the type of generosity that involves the giving of ourselves, not ourselves. If you woke up feeling extra wise or extra talkative, then you're in luck. You'll get a chance to be part of the service when we take it to the pews with a question on generosity. So make sure your hair is combed or brushed and you put your best smile on your face, and stay tuned for that.
I have two announcements. First, Stone Soup is coming next Sunday, December 3rd. This annual event helps fund UU's Helping People's outreach programs like the Friday Sunset Supper and the Cold Weather Night Shelter. If you'd like to contribute bowls of interest, you can drop them off on or before the service next week. Drop-off boxes will be at the entrances of Gilmore Hall and the sanctuary. I've already seen one at the entrance to Gilmore Hall. If you have any questions, you can ask Reggie Craig. I saw him a minute ago. Yes, he's sitting in the back third there. Geneva Nelson and or Sabine Von Olak, and she is sitting up front here. Also, Equal Exchange Fair Trade Coffee, Tea, and Chocolate will once again be on the second and fourth Sundays, which means beginning today. These products are ethically sourced, organic, and tasty. Profits from the sales go to things like replacing all the light bulbs with more energy-efficient LED lights, thus saving us money. Look for Karen, Frank, and Reggie Craig at the social justice table in Gilmore after the service.
Thanks again, Sandi. As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of diverse beliefs, but we share a common faith, a faith that every person is worthy of love, that what we do in the world matters, that we are connected to one another and to the earth. So whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcomed here.
Allow me to give a special welcome to any newcomers. If you are new to UU St. Pete, or even relatively new, can you give a wave? Okay, that's a fairly good number. If you'd like, please stand as you're willing and able and briefly introduce yourself. John will bring the microphone to you so those on YouTube can hear what you're saying. You are under no obligation to say anything, but if you're willing, we'd love to hear from you.
Any brave
Please raise your
souls this
hands
morning?
again.
Laura Bykowski and my wife. Hi, Terry McDowell, and this is my wife, Laura.
Welcome, glad to have you here.
We're Cecil and Linda Miles, and we're from St. Pete. This is our first time here, and we already feel welcome. Thank you.
So, Cecil and Lynn, is that? Linda, okay. Great. Anybody else? You're back?
We're not new, but we're back from Vermont. Yay.
Anyone else? Great. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you all for sharing, and thank you for silencing your cell phones. Regarding masks, we encourage you to wear one as you feel comfortable, and masks are available at either of the entrances. We'll take a few minutes to greet our neighbors. Just remember to get consent if you're going to give them a hug or a handshake. You are yeah, that'd be good. And I'll introduce you to Todd, who's the chair, but we can talk after.
The flaming chalice is a reminder that we choose to focus here together for this time, and that we believe such time is sacred. When Jerry Humpner Gates lights our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words can be found within your programs and online in the text chat. Feel free to follow along with the two hand movements, hand to heart, then hands reaching out like you're serving. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Thank you, Jerry. Please rise as you are willing and able for our first hymn. It's hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, and it's in your gray hymnal.
For the beauty of
please be seated. Normally, this would be the time that we do Time for All Ages. However, since Aaron and Janae aren't here today, we decided to forego the Time for All Ages and instead give a chance to have a little bit of a broader audience participation. So we will sing the children out to their classrooms after this little opportunity of sharing. So I want you all to consider a couple things. Gratitude and generosity are much like the chicken and the egg. Which came first? And can you have one without the other? And then we are entering the holiday season. It's a time that seems to focus more on the materialistic aspects of giving and receiving instead of the more altruistic qualities. How do you remain in balance? And then finally, a thought: is generosity a spiritual practice for you? And briefly tell us how generosity affects your spirituality. So I'm going to grab the microphone again and come out if somebody's brave enough to share their thoughts on one of those things. Do I need to read them again? Yeah, okay. So first one, gratitude and generosity are much like the chicken and the egg. Which came first? And can you have one without the other? The second, we are entering the holiday season. It's a time that seems to focus more on the materialistic aspects of giving and receiving instead of the altruistic qualities. How do you remain in balance? And then finally, is generosity a spiritual practice for you? And if so, briefly describe how that generosity affects your spirit. And also, if you're on, I forgot to say, if you're online, you can type in your response into the text chat, and we'll share those. Depending on participation, we may not have a chance to get to everybody, but. And if there's not a brave soul, I've got family here, and so they always get stuck if there's nobody else. We'll go back here to Jim, and then we'll go over to Cynthia, and then Miss Trish.
Over the Thanksgiving holiday, I reconnected with my 5-year-old best buddy. And we were both removed from our neighborhood as 13-year-olds, and it was kind of tough. And I've learned throughout my life that a gratefulness inventory every morning is the single best salve for the human condition. And living in gratitude is ecstasy, and everything else just kind of fits into its proper place and perspective is what I have found. Thank you, Linda Larson, for reconnecting with me.
Hi, I'll just follow up on that, Cynthia Patterson. I want to thank Jill Oldensky because she introduced to the Sunday morning discussion group the idea of saying your gratefuls. That's what she calls it, saying your gratefuls every morning. And many of you know, in terms of generosity, I made a commitment many years ago to give 10% of my after-tax income to this congregation. I've increased it since then, and I encourage you all to consider the same. This is my spiritual home, no matter what happens, and I encourage you to consider generosity to this, your spiritual home.
Thank you, Cynthia and Ms. Trish. And then do we have anybody on YouTube that's, okay.
This Thanksgiving, as many times, I had to be in the presence of people with whom I've had some conflict in the past. And before entering into the situation, I asked for help from she that I call the goddess, which is the same one. Anybody ask for help, it's that spirit, to work through me to be my best self around those people or that person. And I was granted that grace. I am very grateful for that.
Thank you, Trish. Kathleen.
Look at the research, folks. It shows that those people who express gratitude through their generosity of their time or their talent or their financial resources Live longer. So if you want a longer life, be more generous.
Exactly true. Anybody else care to share? Oh, I'll get you after Pete.
On the chicken and egg problem, I think they evolved together.
Good answer.
Hi, I'm Christine. I've had a little time to think about generosity because it was our topic in the covenant last week. And I like thinking about the layers of generosity. What are my intentions behind the generosity? And I've been enjoying that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Get back to my script. Thank you all for sharing, and I want to keep these in your minds as we continue through the service, and let them inspire you to find new ways to practice generosity. If you didn't share publicly, then I offer you a challenge, and that is to discuss your questions with somebody during coffee hour. It's a way to mingle and meet somebody, and you already have a cue as to what the topic can be. Being generous with your time and attentiveness, they're really wonderful gifts to give to somebody else. We'll now sing the children off to their classrooms. We now come to the time in our worship service for joys, sorrows, and concerns. Those of you on YouTube can type you're not in the room, but your presence is still felt. Please type your joys and sorrows into the text chat. If you have a joy, sorrow, or concern to submit during the week, please write to Reverend Ben at minister@uustpete.org. Right now, Dana Foster will place a stone in the water for each one that was submitted this week. The ripples emanating from the stones remind us of the impact of our lives can ripple through the greater community.
A stone of sorrow that Reverend Ben, along with Gianna Pergamo, Morgan Ballard, and their friend Brianna, have tested positive for COVID. Also a joy that none of their symptoms are too bad so far.
A stone of sorrow on the passing of Lucinda's mother, Luella. She was a stage actor and producer. She did the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle each week, in pen, mind you, and was a leader in her community in Bernardston. The memorial service will be on December 9th in Bernardston.
A stone of sorrow for the rise of both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, and for the loss of civilian lives in Gaza and Israel.
And a stone of concern for former member Alex Bolton Schultz. She recently fell and is recovering at the Springs of Boca Ciega Bay Rehab Center. May she recover soon. For more specifics, you can contact Karen Cole.
A stone of joy for all those that donated time and food to make the UU St. Pete Thanksgiving celebration a reality. We had lots of food, love, and celebration, and the leftovers will be feeding our Friday night guests for weeks to come.
Stone of concern from Claudia Sunman. William Cohen tested positive for COVID on Friday. He is taking Paxlovid and says that it is helping, but she is concerned, as am I, because his health is already compromised. Please send healing thoughts that the drugs work and that he recovers quickly.
And a stone of concern. May all of those who have COVID heal well. May all of the rest of us be careful.
Stone of concern from Aaron. A colleague of mine had a massive heart attack and is in critical condition at the moment. Please pray for George and his healing and recovery. May we bring to mind and hold close to our hearts Reverend Ben, Gianna, Morgan Ballard, their friend Brianna, William Cohen, Lucinda and her family, the people of Israel and Gaza, and all those known and unknown who are facing challenges and health concerns. Now please join us for our responsive reading written by, this is what happens when you cut and paste, written by John Motter.
May our hearts not become calloused by the never-ending incidences of oppression and hatred that so many face each day. Rather, may we keep our hearts open to the positive efforts of so many people causing good trouble in the world.
May we have the strength to demand and gain the right for all people to have a safe place to sleep, health care to keep them strong, and the knowledge that their lives matter.
It is taking longer than it should, but we will get there if we continue to strive for basic human rights. May all of us find a comforting and compassionate presence in the warmth of fellowship and community.
And we will place the final stone for those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken out loud. Now let's take a moment of silence together. The mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in our beloved community that makes of the many one. So may it be.
This reading is excerpted from Two Treasures, a book of Buddhist teachings and awareness and true happiness by Thich Nhat Hanh. Every person, no matter what their wealth, is equally capable of practicing generosity. Some people think that they can only practice generosity if they're wealthy. This is not true. Some people who are very wealthy do practice generosity, but many only do charity with the aim of giving merit, profiting, or pleasing others. People whose lives are grounded in compassion are seldom rich because they share whatever they have with others. They are not willing to enrich their lives financially at the cost of others' poverty. Many people misunderstand the Buddhist expression practicing generosity to mean casually giving 5 or 10 cents to a beggar on the street if we happen to have it in our pockets. The practice of generosity is more beautiful than that. It is both modest and grand. Practicing generosity means continually acting in a way that will help equalize the difference between the wealthy and the impoverished. Whatever we do to ease human suffering and create social justice can be considered practicing generosity. Practicing generosity in a Buddhist context means to consider everyone equal, not to discriminate against anyone. There are cruel persons and kind persons among the poor and destitute, just as there are among the wealthy, and we must not exclude the cruel ones from our practice.
Lately, at this time, we've been reading the mission statement. But because today's topic is generosity, I thought we would read part of the proposed Article 2 amendments to our bylaws that had a preliminary vote at the General Assembly this past June, and the final vote on the Article 2 proposal will be this coming June 2024. In the new Article 2, it proposes 6 values, one of which is generosity. These values encompass and/or expand on our current principles. Please read along with me. The words are in your order of service or in the text chat box if you're on YouTube. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Thank you all. And now the USP choir will sing our anthem, Thankful.
Our second reading this morning is excerpted from 20 quotations on generosity, a profound act of kindness by Toni Bernhard, J.D., from her book, Turning Straw into Gold. I did not include all 20 quotations, so we will get out of here for coffee and conversation. That's what I consider true generosity. You give your all, and yet you always feel as if it costs nothing. Simone de Beauvoir. You cannot do a kindness too soon, because you never know how soon it will be too late. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Gentleness, self-sacrifice, and generosity are not the exclusive possession of one race or religion. Mahatma Gandhi. Generosity is the most natural outward expression of an inner attitude of compassion and loving kindness. The 14th Dalai Lama. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Martin Luther King Jr. And the quotation that speaks the most to me, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Simone Weil. I'm aware that that's the American pronunciation of her name, but I wanted everybody to know who I'm talking about. For me, attention is a recognition of the importance of anyone to whom you are attending. I cannot say that I was always perfect, but in my work as a psychiatric nurse and then nurse practitioner, attention was what I always felt was the most important thing I could give. I think to someone who hears voices or acts differently, attention is a way of recognizing them of human beings and making a connection. And I know that it was the most important and rewarding part of my job. I also know that children who are neglected, not paid attention to, are starting their lives with significant handicaps. I have been reading recently about research on adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs. These are so devastating that the children have early onsets of things like hypertension, diabetes, substance abuse, poor memories, and many other hardships. They truly need our attention, hopefully early enough that we can prevent some of these hardships and build in them a sense of resiliency, but also, if we can't reach them sooner, in order to help them recover.
Philanthropy, charity, and generosity are three words that are often used interchangeably. Philanthropy is the desire to promote the welfare of others, expressed especially by the generous donation of money to good causes. Charity is the voluntary giving of help, typically in the form of money, to those in need. Whereas generosity is the quality of showing a readiness to give more of something, as money or as time, than is strictly necessary or expected. I would argue that of the three, the spirit of generosity is the finer quality to possess. Generosity, I feel, asks more of the individual than philanthropy or charity. It calls us to give more of ourselves. So what do I mean? My covenant group uses the Soul Matters curriculum, as do some of the other covenant groups, and the monthly small group packet always has an opening reading to set the tone for the month. And I really connected with this month's opening and decided to use it as the basis for this reflection. So it starts out, it reads, "It would be easy to see this as a month of niceness. After all, for many, the call of generosity is equated with the call to be kind. But that's not the spiritual understanding, and it's certainly not the sort of gift our faith sees in generosity. First of all, it's transformative. Generosity doesn't just begin and brighten our days, it changes how we relate to life. Let's be honest. Life can be hard on us. And before it does, let's be honest, life can harden us. And before it does, it often hurts us. So we can't be blamed for viewing it as a threat, like some kind of dangerous obstacle course, or a giant game of King of the Hill, where the winners take all and the rest of us are thrown to the bottom, bruised and empty-handed. No matter which metaphor fits, it's almost impossible to think our way out of it on our own. But then these seemingly small and sentimental gestures come our way. A person notices that we forgot to bring our bus pass and pays for us before we have to ask. The neighbor, if you're up north, shovels our part of the driveway while she does hers. The nurse takes a half hour to sit with us while we wait for the results. It wasn't her job. She's going to have to make up the time somehow, but she does it anyway. In those simple moments, the world suddenly feels less cold. A crack sets in. Our obstacle course, winner take all of life, gives way to something softer. We may still hurt, but it also feels as though life itself is trying to help us. That's what generosity does. It transforms. Kathleen pointed it out. It's true scientifically. It transforms us. It makes us healthier. It keeps us alive longer. In this passage, the author is talking about the effects felt from another person's generosity. And the implication is that the recipient is grateful for that generosity and is transformed by it. So it takes us back to that question of which came first, generosity or gratitude. And my initial thought is, who the hell cares? But I do care. I don't care about which came first, but I want to know how these seemingly small gestures can be so impactful, so meaningful. I think it's because we recognize that the donor gave us something that cost them something, not necessarily in monetary terms, but in terms of something that they did not have an abundance of to begin with. In an article entitled, "As If There Is Nothing to Lose, How Giving Comes from Gratitude," Sally Gico Tisdale writes, "Gratitude, the simple and profound feeling of being thankful, is the foundation of all generosity. I am generous when I believe that right now, right here, in this form and in this place, I am myself being given what I need. Generosity requires that we relinquish something, and this is impossible if we are not glad for what we have to begin with. Otherwise, the giving hand closes into a fist and won't let go of anything." How many of you know someone that is seldom happy despite having a pretty good life? Spending an hour with that person is draining. They find fault with everything, and it's miserable, really, to visit with them because they zap you of any positivity in your life. I had an aunt, my Aunt Marge, who was the exact opposite. She was widowed at age 35 with 4 children and a 5th one on the way. She struggled with an uncooperative body due to having had polio. Her oldest child, a son, committed suicide because he was gay and at that time could not reconcile being gay with how the world treated him. Her youngest son died of cancer at age 22. I mean, life dealt her some pretty crappy cards. However, she persevered. She found happiness and gratitude in things that she did not have, but she did have, And she was really very generous of spirit. She was a character, but she was always happy. She always found the positivity in things. And because of that, I think she lived into her 90s. The piece goes on to say, quote, "It also connects. Deep down, we know the difference between giving and giving generously. The former is taken, excuse me, the former is taken from our extra. The latter is taken from what is essential. It's a difference between giving our loose change and giving of ourselves. And when you hand over a part of you to someone else, you're tethered. Your vulnerability meets their vulnerability. You haven't just helped, you've shown that you care. Both of you feel seen and less alone. This is the difference between charity and generosity. Many of us will get the end-of-year appeal letters from the charities that we donate to throughout the year. They will be well-crafted letters meant to pull at our heartstrings, meant to open up our checkbooks, or pull out our credit cards. And because they know that we'll give, they do it. And there's really nothing wrong with that. In fact, it would be a great time to look around at this beautiful sanctuary and think about the roof repair, or the electric bill, or the sunset supper, and be extra generous to the church. Now listen, I'm the financial secretary, so I was not going to let this chance go away to give a little push. You know, I had to. Sandi stated that she really connected with the quote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." And it's easy to see why she connected with this. We live in a world that pulls us too many directions. It always leaves us short on time. We don't often get a chance to sit and savor a beautiful sunset or visit with a dear friend. So when someone gives of their time, you understand the magnitude of that gift. It's recognition that you matter in the world. The piece goes on to say, but make no mistake, generosity doesn't stop there at care and connection. It also challenges. True generosity doesn't ask us to care for people, doesn't just ask us to care for people, it also asks us to call them out. When you look at life through the lens of generosity, charity loses its sheen, and many of those who have much are exposed as hoarding what others need. It's sneaky that way. Generosity undermines our comfortable views and invites justice in. It doesn't just ask us to be kind to others. It also asks us to question why some have so much more than others do. I have to tell you, I was astounded by the sales forecast for this year. Holiday retail sales in November and December of 2023 are expected to grow by 3 to 4% to a new record high of between $957.3 billion and $966.6 billion. That's a jump from the $929 billion recorded in 2022. And prior to that, the sales average increase was 3.6% from 2010 to 2019. So it's grown quite a bit just in the last year. So again, there's nothing wrong with spending money that you've earned on gifts giving for your family and friends. However, do consider a few things. Many people will go into debt in order to have that very Merry Christmas. People like Jeff Bezos will not be one of them. Many of his employees will, but not him. When you look at the wealth gap in our country, one has to question our priorities. How did we get so out of balance? Why do so many people struggle, and how can we fix it? We have to be generous in spirit. We have to give beyond just money. I would argue that we have to give our time. For many, that is what we don't have enough of, and yet would be the most unexpected, the most above and beyond, and one that is our essential. I look at the work that FAST is doing and what we are a part of as a result of belonging to FAST. FAST, for those that don't know, is an organization here in Portland. It's about 60 churches that belong to the group that work on 3 social issues each year that are local and can be acted upon and solved in a year or 2 years, sometimes 3. How is it that so many people are struggling to find affordable housing in our community? The people that are serving our food, bagging up our groceries, driving our school buses, caring for our friends and family in hospitals or nursing homes. Those are the people that need affordable housing. The current minimum wage in Florida is $12 an hour, or a gross amount of just over $2,000 a month. The average rent for a studio in St. Pete is currently $1,902. Do the math. That was the gross amount. What do you have after taxes? A huge number of individuals are going to spend the Christmas holiday in jail because they were arrested for nonviolent offenses and are unable to pay the bail. So they will sit there until their trial date, despite many of them being innocent. These are often people that don't look like me. You know who they are. They are people of color, black men, who don't do anything different from what I do, other than they have the wrong color of skin. I roll through those stop signs without coming to a complete stop. I don't get pulled over. These people do. If they are lucky, someone on the outside will be able to send them a care package for the holiday. One care package containing 24 ramen noodle packages, 10 small bags of Doritos or Fritos, 4 cookies, and 10 packets of a drink mix will cost them $39.99, plus an $8.99 service fee for processing the order. I went online. The retail cost of those goods at Winn-Dixie is only $23.35. So the profit, including the service charge, will be $25.63, more than the value of what is in that care package. That is the cost of being a working class and/or BIPOC individual in our city, in our country, and in our state. The piece concludes with transform, connect, challenge. Not the usual words we pair with generosity, and maybe that's the point. Maybe the invitation to be generous this month is not just to be more generous, but to notice how generosity is bigger than we think. I'll leave you with one other quote. It captures the reason that social justice work is spiritual work for me, and I feel we must embrace that work in order to grow individually and as a community. Many of you will recognize these words. So often, the contemporary church is weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. So often, it is an arch defender of the status quo. Far from being disturbed by the presence of the church, the power structure of the average community is consoled by the church's silent and often even vocal sanction of things as they are. But the judgment of God is upon the church as never before. If today's church does not recapture the sacrificial spirit of the early church, it will lose its authenticity, forfeit the loyalty of millions, and be dismissed as an irrelevant social club with no meaning for the 20th century. Every day, I meet young people whose disappointment with the church has turned into outright disgust. Written by Martin Luther King Jr. in a letter from a Birmingham jail, dated April 16th, 1963. Is it any wonder that young people are turning away from the church today, 50 years later, and churches are still helping to maintain the power structure of the community? There's good news, though. However, being here at UU St. Pete, I am so very grateful for a number of things, but one of the most important ones is that we, as a church, are not silent. We do speak up. We do call out. and we do create positive change. I see that in the number of young people that are joining us as members. I see that in the efforts of those who volunteer every Friday night for the Sunset Supper. I see that in the work that the Bodily Autonomy Committee is doing. I see that in the work I see it in the 19 people that spent 6 Sunday afternoons participating in the Living the Pledge to End Racism workshop. I see it in the growing diversity of age, of race, of gender, of sexual orientation that are here in the pews every week. We are a generous congregation, and a congregation that continually is trying to do better, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. We are not perfect by any means, but we keep trying and we keep making things better. Amen. I say, blessed be.
Thank you, John. I'm a little bit reluctant to follow that, to tell you the truth. But we gather here to learn, to be inspired, to gather strength, and to build community. In the sanctuary, the offering will now be given and received so that we may take care of our vital community.
Well, I'm grateful for something. I'm grateful that a week ago, this congregation called Reverend Ben as our settled minister. I'd like to sing a song by John Bacchino called Grateful. I've got a roof over my head. I've got a warm place to sleep. Some nights I lie awake counting gifts instead of counting sheep. I've got a heart that can hold love. I've got a mind that can think. There may be times when I lose the light and let my spirit sink, but I can't stay depressed when I remember how I'm blessed. Grateful, grateful, truly grateful I am. Grateful, grateful, truly blessed and duly grateful. In a city of strangers, I've got a family of friends. No matter what rocks and brambles fill the way, I know that they will stay until the end. In a world that is hurting, I will still take each chance. For I believe that whatever the terrain, our feet can learn to dance. Whatever stone life may slay, We can moan or we can sing. Grateful, grateful, truly grateful I am. Grateful, grateful, truly blessed and duly grateful. Truly blessed and duly grateful.
Thank you, John, for that beautiful song. What's given in love, we receive with great joy, and we say thank you. Now, please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, We Give Thanks. It's hymn 1010 in the Teal hymnal.
I don't know why, but this particular hymn number has been in the program for the last 3 weeks, and we've never done it. So we can give thanks that we're finally getting through it, and we don't have to sing it anymore. Well, actually, this is the first time we're singing it. We're probably going to be singing the top line unless you're extremely adventurous. And we'll go through it twice. This precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our closing words, please be seated. Our closing words come from Blessing by Donna Markova. May you let loving unfurl you, then give you away. May you pass life forward, so that which came from those before you, and that which grows in those next to you, goes on to those who will follow you. Our postlude will be coming in just a moment. I spoke too fast because I did not give Aaron enough time to get up to the organ. But our postlude is Aspiration, Opera 100, number 15. Thank you, Aaron. Now we invite you to say our chalice extinguishing as Jerry extinguishes our chalice. The words to USP's traditional chalice extinguishing are in your order of service and online in the text chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Our worship is over, but our service begins. We hope this time together will help you through the week and will help you remember that you are not alone. Please join us next door in Gilmore Hall for coffee hour. Thank you, everyone.